build parks on their properties would really work, and particularly in the city where our lots are very small. I think that we should consider, and this is something that I've been thinking about and evolving on, I think we should consider devoting a portion of our penny sales tax money, rather than devoting that money to acquiring property in the downtown to build a parking garage. I would think that we should consider using that money to acquire land that is in our western communities that's already very cheap, that's interior to these neighborhoods, to create a large interior park on the west side of Dixie Highway, south of 10th Avenue, whether that's in the Tropical Ridge neighborhood, whether that's in the Royal Poinciana neighborhood, or whether that's in the Genesis neighborhood. Those neighborhoods need a park, and I think that we should consider using the penny sales tax money to acquire the land to build that park. That's something that I'm willing to think about.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. I'm going to repeat the question just in case. I don't think it got off track or anything. It's just got two people with very detailed answers. What are your plans for increasing city parks and playgrounds? Commissioner Robinson.
Well, first of all, we can't use the penny sales tax for a study. And I certainly don't want to spend $150,000 for a study. I've been in neighborhoods, whereas I haven't seen actually anybody else up here that's been at as many cleanups in the different neighborhoods that I've been in. And to assume that we haven't contributed increase in our community center in the Osborne that one of our candidates wasn't even aware of until we decided to run for office, has been a great investment, and we continue to invest in that community center. I've talked to visiting neighborhood associations, and we talk about pocket parks, and they're sort of like speed bumps. Everybody wants a speed bump, but they don't want it in front of their house, and they don't want that kind of speed bump. Pocket parks can be a consequence that might be less than desirable. We have 23 acres north of 19th that I would love to invest to provide more recreation. One, we have a assistant city manager that is a recreation person. He's all about recreation, and I support him 100%. Our leisure services provide programs in all the parks that need to be credited and appreciated. I look forward to investing in our parks wisely, not just because one particular neighborhood wants one in an empty lot.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson.
Okay, so the biggest problem with the Osborne Community Center, and I've spent some time there, is that in Howard Park, just on the other side of the building, there's actually a homeless population that sleeps there. They migrate towards Bryant Park during the day, and then they come back and sleep there at night. The park is dark. There's not a lot of lighting there. And Lake Osborne Community Center itself actually doesn't have any programs being run there. There's no rec programs being run there. So I would argue that the money being invested into that park is not true. A couple of other things, talking about parks and looking forward. So one of the things that I want to do, I agree with Captain Turk about having the Parks and Rec plan. I also want to look at other cities, what other cities have done. West Palm Beach has spent a lot of their penny sales tax money on parks and recreation in and around their city. They've built community centers, they've renovated community centers. I'd also like to see our 12 acres on the northwest side of the city that was going to be up for a vote. It was crushed. It was not allowed to be put up for a vote for sale. I'd like to actually protect that because that's on the C-51 canal. And if you could build some walkable, bikeable trails around there, and then excavate in some natural springs, what you do is you create a solution to cleaning some of the water and filtering some of that water that goes into the C-51 canal and out. So that's part of your Parks and Rec as well. The last thing that I'd say is, as far as Recreation Department goes itself, I'd love to see us hire some more facilitators for our Recs program. We have Recs to Go that launched last year. That's been a great program. It's like a pop-up recreation plan that goes around in different districts and different neighborhoods. I'd love to see that facilitated. When you talk to those guys that run that, the first thing they say is that we just need more people. We just need more people to help run these programs. That's a cheap and quick and easy way. So I am all about investing into our parks, and I would absolutely agree that we can use penny sales tax money to do it because West Palm Beach has done it, so we can do it too. Thanks.
I'm glad to hear Tom agrees with my vision for the Northwest 12 acres. I believe it should be a little more than that, though. It's an access to the Blue Way Trail. We can put a dock there for small boats and for jet skis and for kayaks to get out to the Blue Way Trail without having to go over the spillway lift that doesn't exist just yet. We can have a ramp here and we can have a little park up there. It's adjacent to the Vernon Heights Park there. There's a little pond and we can just make a very nice space up there for picnicking and what have you. There are no parks here in Parrot Cove. There's not a park in this part. I don't think there's one in Eden Place or College Park either. I'm not sure if there's an actual park and recreation park there. Howard Park does need to be renovated. There's really nothing there. You know, it really needs to be built up. It's a wide open space and it's something for us to use. But the gymnasium, if you haven't seen it, is fantastic. It's a great rebuild, I guess about 2 or 3 years ago. And that's the Osborne Rec Center, by the way, not the Lake Osborne Rec Center. I'm all for putting money into parks and making sure that people can. I understand Herman's concern about pocket parks, but you know, in a community like this, in a neighborhood like this, here, Parrot Cove, Eaton Place, College Park, it's the perfect spot for that sort of thing. You don't get a whole lot of traffic, and it's good enough for the residents to come sit down, read a book, and relax. And I'm all for that.
Thank you, Richard. The next question to start with Commissioner Hardy. How will you improve the South Federal Highway corridor?
Gosh, well, this is my question. If I could do one thing to improve the South Federal Highway corridor, I would simplify our zoning code. Our zoning code is extremely difficult for people to read. We have a zoning code that has multiple layers of regulation. We have a future land use map, which governs all of the future zonings in a particular piece of property. We have the zoning code itself, which tells you specifically how to build on a piece of property. But in case that's not confusing enough for you, we have this thing called the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program, which creates exceptions and exemptions for things in our zoning code if you give the city certain things. That makes it almost impossible for someone to simply read our zoning code and understand exactly what they can get on a piece of property. They have to walk into William Waters' office. William Waters is the Director of Community Sustainability. So really to understand what's possible on a piece of property. And now we are about to add another layer of complexity to this. We're about to create a transfer development rights program whereby a property owner may exceed the maximum square footage, the maximum height, the maximum density on a property that they own if they go to the city and buy developable capacity. That increases the level of complexity that we get on our properties. It increases the level of uncertainty for people who are building and developing land. And guess what? Uncertainty is the enemy of capital. People who have money to invest do not like to invest it in uncertain environments, and that's precisely what our zoning code fosters. So if it were up to me, I would change our zoning code so that it is clear and perspicacious to anyone who is reading it, so that you can be on a laptop in Iceland and understand that if I buy this piece of property, I can get exactly this. That is not the kind of zoning code that we have in Lake Worth today. If it were up to me, if I could wave a magic wand to solve the problem on South Federal Highway, I would drastically simplify and clarify our zoning code. And that's basically what I would do. I think that would spur a lot of investment.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardy. Mr. Robinson.
South Federal Highway has been one of my pet peeves since being on the commission. I agree with a lot of what Commissioner Hardy says, and I hold William Waters accountable is probably a good, gentle word. We need to make some changes there with the land that's been vacant for more than 5 years. And the consistency of our planning and zoning, our government, the politics of Lake Worth has driven some people away with less enthusiasm. So consistency in government, consistency in the planning and zoning department, and you know, that would go a long way to help develop And with development, we will have, I'm sure, less crime and prostitution on Federal Highway. I believe that we can build our way away from prostitution. Greed is another thing that we can't legislate away, but that's a big factor we have to consider. And I'm sorry, we can't do much about greed. I would love to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Looks like you were going to answer it. So anybody who's lived here for more than 25 years knows that Federal Highway has been a problem for 25 years or longer. The main problem with Federal Highway south of downtown is that we have all of these empty lots up and down Federal Highway, which attracts blight, it attracts crime. Now, I personally live in South Palm Park on the 17th block of South Palm Park, so I'm as far south as I can get, and the back of my house backs up against an empty lot that is a giant lot. I mean, it's got a huge assemblage opportunity. It's probably about 4.5 acres, so it's a great lot to be able to develop on. But this is the same problem that we have with downtown. So the question is, if you want to get businesses in downtown, you got to give businesses what they want. If you want developers on Federal Highway, you got to give them what they want. And what they want is they want density, they want height, and to Commissioner Hardy's point, they want simplification as well. But I don't think it's as complicated as Commissioner Hardy has said it is. We just met this past weekend with a developer that bought some land right there on M Street, N and O in between those two, and they're building a boutique hotel. They're going to call it Jewel Hotel. These are wonderful people. They're a group out of New Orleans, and when they came into the city, we were chatting with them. I said, what was your take on it? And he said, it was fantastic. The city rolled out the red carpet. William Waters and his team rolled out the red carpet. They answered every question we had. We didn't have that many questions because these are professional developers, okay? It may seem complicated to us because we're not developers, but people who can come into the city and change the fabric of the city by giving the city what it needs, which is people, because if you want to talk about pushing out blight and crime, the only way to do it is with people walking. The developers that can come in here and solve what we're talking about right now that hasn't been solved in 25 years, we have to give them what they want. So I've advocated very early on in meeting with the CRA and Joan, the director there, of redistricting South Federal Highway from 6th Avenue South all the way to the end of the city, taking away the CRA districting from Dixie Highway because nothing is happening there, and then also creating incentives for development on Federal Highway by reviewing and raising height restrictions on Federal Highway. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
As far as the empty lots on Federal Highway, I think there's a sign where Millie's Texaco used to be that's right next to the Wells Fargo and it has Rob Hammond's name on it. Give him a call. He told me that the same owner of that piece of property that's looking to do a land lease owns all those empty lots up and down Federal Highway. So maybe give Rob a call and see what's going on there. 25 years ago, Federal Highway wasn't so bad. All those hotels were Finnish owned, and Finns would come in for that period of time, and it was very clean, and it's gotten worse since. You want to clean up Federal Highway, the first thing you do is what I said earlier. Let's get rid of the pimps, the hookers, the johns, the drug dealers, and the addicts, and then let's build sensibly, not high. You know, I don't know about you, but I love the townhouses that are popping up all along Federal Highway, whether it's up here in Parrot Cove or in the Tuscany on 10th Avenue, or whether it's the Cloisters or down further. I think that's a good look for us. It's 2-3 stories high. It's nothing too big. It gives us proper density, and it brings in good actors that will replace the bad actors. And that's, I think, what we need to do there on South Federal Highway. I live on South Palm Way. I'm half a block from Federal Highway. We have gunfights in the alley across the street from me going on. You know, and there was one behind Tommy's house not long ago, actually a block away from his house. And it gets a little scary down there. So we're used to it, but we don't like it. It happens all the time. I'm not saying you get used to it, you can't. But we deal with that all the time. And that's my way of feeling that we need to clean it up. We need to get rid of the crime, and then we can clean that up. And then we can attract builders to come in and do the right thing.
So there's no simple one-shot solution here. In business, the saying is KISS, right? Keep it simple, sweetheart. And I agree that we do need to have a simple zoning and LDRs. Ours aren't that complicated though, they are for laymen, but they're not for these people, the developers that are coming through. What I have seen, and I literally live a few houses down from it, is I see these empty lots, and I see these property owners who are sitting on property, it's not uncomfortable for them to sit there. The taxes are fairly reasonable. They hire someone to come in and mow the property once or twice a year. It's really easy for them to sit there. Now, there was a resolution a few months ago, and that would have made it a little more uncomfortable for vacant landowners to keep their property. The resolution called for it to be fenced. It called for these vacant properties to be lit as well as landscaped. And I do agree that that went way too far. But there's nothing wrong with making it perhaps not so easy for them to sit on this empty land. You know, fencing. If anybody who has done the cleanups, like I know Herman has, and I've been out there too, you know, there's a lot of really bad stuff that goes on these properties. So, first of all, we could ask them to fence these properties. You know, if there are things in the LDRs and zoning that need to be simplified, let's simplify them. And also, when it comes to the crime, Richard is absolutely right. I went to a neighborhood association meeting out there, and I heard about one man who goes around and picks up all of the needles around the elementary school so children won't have to see them on their way to school. I had someone else ask the principal, do they fingerprint the children? Because the children are walking by prostitutes and drug dealers every morning, and she wants to make sure they can identify the body. The fact is that I went out there, I couldn't sleep. I went every morning for a couple of weeks, and sure enough, that stuff's going on out there. We need to have our deputies protecting these children, protecting our streets, spot patrolling. We need to know where they're at, and we need to clean it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Next question, we're going to start with Commissioner Robinson. We started with you, right? Okay. I have to read somebody's handwriting first. In my head. Okay. Explain your vision for downtown Lake Worth. Does it include a parking garage? And if so, would you initiate paid parking?
Well, first of all, I'm not interested in giving developers everything they want. And I certainly am not interested in taking away the income to the general fund to allow CRA to take over Federal Highway. And thirdly, I want to say that if we could organize and have a DBA or some sort of a commerce organization on Federal Highway, that would be a great step towards improving downtown, because downtown needs people, and it doesn't necessarily need a parking garage. If we can have more housing closer to downtown, we will need less parking. But I am very interested in creating residential parking stickers for the eventual development of the Gulf Stream. And I envision walkability, as we're going to mention again and again. But I really did want to mention Federal Highways as one of my interests, and those 3 points you need to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson. Tom.
All right, so this is one of the first things that I ran on when I announced that I was running last year in October. And the reason is because we've had the same sort of systemic problem with downtown. Downtown is not just in transition, okay? In transition is, yes, some businesses come in, they might fail, they might move on, some businesses retire. Downtown is not in transition. Our parking study that came out in October 2018 shows that downtown has vacancy rates of about 30%. Okay, I said 35% last time, that's why he's laughing. I went back and looked at it again, it's 30%. So what we have to do is when you talk to the business owners, you have to ask them, what do you want in order to be able to bring in a new business? If you ask any business owner, my wife and I are business owners, we understand this. They want 2 things. They want access and they want people. And both those 2 things work in tandem together. I'm glad to hear Commissioner Omari Hardy here talking tonight about mobility and walkability. I've been talking about mobility and walkability in downtown since this campaign started. So my plan and my vision for downtown is going to be a parking, mobility, and downtown parking and mobility plan. And what that means is, yes, it does include a parking garage, but it also includes the mechanisms for managing and funding the parking garage. So that would include metering on Lake and Lucerne. That would include decals for homeowners that live in downtown, so that they don't have to fight for parking. That includes wayfinding, which are the signs that tell you where parking is. Right now in downtown, we absolutely have a parking problem. You know what it is? Nobody knows where parking is. The other problem that we have is that nothing's lit up. And then the last problem that we have is that we have parking lots all over the city. They're all kind of random. If you look at the map, they're all kind of random. There's like 6 of them. Nobody knows where they're at. And if we build a parking garage, then that creates development opportunity on those lots, okay, to create the density that we all are talking about here that we need. So that's my plan and my vision for downtown parking and mobility plan. Let's do it once, let's do it right, let's do it for the future, let's do what every other downtown does in cities all up and down the Florida East Coast. Let's just do what they do, which is create a parking plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Richard.
I like Herman's word. We don't have a parking problem, we have a parking issue, and that's more accurate than a problem. I agree, kind of in the middle here. I don't think we need any big elaborate parking plan. We do need some additional parking. The lot behind the Playhouse is a perfect spot to, I think, put a deck, a second deck there. We have the lot that's behind CJ's. If we were gonna build a garage, that would be the place to do it, but we blew the opportunity to have that piece. You have the Lucerne building, which is 12 stories high. You have CJ's, which is just about 3 stories. It's 2 very large stories. And that would be a great spot to have put that, to be able to blend right in without obstructing any kind of view. I completely disagree with going and buying historic homes to pave over to build a parking lot. I think that's the most ridiculous thing that we can be doing, is tearing down historic buildings in order to build parking. When we have, I mentioned Neely's Mexico, where that was next to the Wells Fargo. That is a perfect spot if you just want to pave something, to do it right in that spot. It's a huge piece of land, and it's right there adjacent to downtown next to the Wells Fargo. I can't see us building just these massive parking lots all over the place. We really don't need it. I'm completely against metered parking downtown on Lake Emerson. The beauty of being here is that we get to park where we want to park. We have one paved lot now, and that's the one that's owned privately by the owner of CJ's. And, you know, people come in there on a Saturday night, it's full, and, you know, we park there sometimes ourselves and pay the $2 or $3 an hour, whatever it may be. So that's how I stand on that. I think we really need to concentrate on getting more businesses in. We've had 3 or 4 new shops, not counting Schlitz, who had the pop-up for in Andy's old store, but he may be here for a little longer after that. But we've had some new stuff come in, the Bamboo Room's opening up, and maybe a little bit is coming into downtown now. Again, parking issue, not a parking problem. Let's deal with it that way and not get so extreme.
Explain your vision for development. Let's see. Explain your vision for the downtown Lake Worth. Does it include a parking garage? And if so, would you initiate paid parking?
Okay. So as Richard has said, we don't have a parking problem today. We have a parking issue. As I've said in the past, I'm not cool enough to not be able to find a parking space. I don't hang out at 10 or 11 o'clock at night or whenever it is when all these parking garages are full. So I personally have never had an issue with it. Even during street painting, I didn't have an issue. But I know that we have building owners who say that new businesses are not coming in because they can't have parking. Now, what I can tell you is an issue is that when people come into our city and we're asking them to park behind the Playhouse, first they're going to drive by a sign that has a bunch of stickers all over it. You can barely read parking. You're going to go down an ugly, dirty alley that has plywood in the streets. It's going to have empty booze bottles along the side. You're going to pull into a parking lot that has potholes, horrible landscaping, 2 huge dumpsters. It's going to be not well lit, and you're going to be expected to leave your car there and walk around to Lake Avenue. I had some friends come into town one time, very recently. Fortunately, they found parking on J Street. I could not. I had to park there, and I was grateful that my friends didn't see that. That should not be the first thing that our visitors see. Now, we do have these historic homes. I don't know what we're going to do with them. The plan was to tear them down and build a parking garage. I think at this time, we don't need to be building a parking garage. When the crunch comes, then we can think about what we will do with that. In the meantime, again, I don't know what we're going to do with these historic homes. They were voted on in 3 different times where they voted on to have these homes purchased. I would actually love to see a couple of them actually move to the intercoastal way so we can have a little waterfront action happening if it gets to that point. But right now, I don't think we need a garage. I think we need to take care of the parking we have, clean it up, and make it inviting for our visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Commissioner Harvey.
First thing I want to do is correct something that was said. We did have a consultant produce a study, and the study did say that we had a high vacancy rate in the downtown. But the study did not say that we had a high vacancy rate in the downtown because the downtown lacked parking. That causal link was not at all asserted in the study, so I just want to make that clear. The other thing is you have to be very careful about reflexively just doing whatever it is businesses in the downtowns want you to do. And I'm going to use West Palm Beach as an example. West Palm Beach just completed one of the most successful streetscape changes in South Florida. They took Clematis Street for a stretch, and they would do this for the entire stretch of Clematis Street. But they took Clematis Street, they narrowed it. They actually took parking away from Clematis Street. They created more space for pedestrians. They created more space for street trees. And what do you see in Clematis right now? Right now you see business owners that are happy. Okay, you see pedestrians that are happy. You see cars actually slowing down during that stretch where Clematis Street was narrowed. And what happened before West Palm Beach did this, the businesses were very upset. They're saying, why would you take away parking? Why would you narrow the street? And today, what do you see on Clematis Street? It's literally lauded. There's a planner who's the chief planner for the city of Toronto. He mentioned West Palm Beach for the changes that they made to their streetscape. You have to be very careful about reflexively doing whatever it is that businesses want you to do. The downtown has a people problem. It does not have a parking problem. If you speak to business owners, what they say is they need bodies. One way to deliver bodies to the downtown is to allow residential development there, and that would require us changing our code. These backyard cottages are illegal through many, many parts of the city. And not only that, there are lots 2 or 3 blocks south of the downtown that are 75 feet, 50 feet wide. Well, the founders of the city were able to take those lots and slice them into halves or slice them into thirds. And today you absolutely cannot do that. That would give you some of the density that lots of people, including developers, would like to see in the downtown, but we don't allow it. Okay, we have to rethink our downtown, but in my opinion, we should look probably to the past. Okay, walkability, I know some people want to say that walkability is a thing of the future. What I would say is walkability is actually a thing of the past. What I would say is these small lots are a thing of the past, and that's why we can rely on it as being the backbone of our future success there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Tom, you are up next.
All right.
I think this one's up to interpretation. Let's see if everyone can nail it. What's your philosophy on city commission intervention on private property?
Interesting. One thing that I just wanted to throw out there before I get started on that was that West Palm has a few things that allow them to do that beautiful streetscape that Commissioner Robinson is talking about, and it is a beautiful project. They have parking garages. They have several of them. They're all over. You also don't need a study to know that we have a parking problem. You can just talk to the downtown
Stick to the
business owners.
question you have.
Sure.
There are no rebuttals in
Okay,
this.
fair enough, gotcha. All right, so city's intervention in private.
What is your philosophy on city commission intervention on private property?
I would say that my philosophy is that city government has a role, and I don't think it's intervening with private property. Which, if you'd like to give a little bit more context on that, I guess I can give you a little bit more.
That's not my question personally.
Okay, well then I'll end it there. Yeah, it's kind of a I don't really know what that's insinuating, but local government has a role, and local government's role is to invest in its infrastructure. Okay, and doing a parking program does invest in its infrastructure. That's really kind of the point behind it. It's to create parks and rec, like the stuff that we've been talking about tonight. It is to incentivize development in and around our city, and it's to guide our city into the future. As far as getting involved in private property, I don't think that the city has a role in getting involved in private property.